Good evening. This is the news tonight, your daily roundup of all that has happened across India and the world. I'm Ishan Russell, and tonight our focus is on the falling prices of crude oil that have touched $45 a barrel today. Why is this happening and what does it mean for you and me? We'll talk about that a little later, but first the headlines we're tracking right now. A day after sacking DRDO Chief Avinash Chandar, the government justifies the move, says it was done to bring younger people into defence research. Amid widespread worries among employees, TCS denies reports of large-scale layoffs. Experts, however, say media reports on the issue highlight irregularities in the sector. The Supreme Court questions the government's targets on Ganga cleanup on a day when over 100 bodies are sighted on the riverbanks. And global oil prices in a tizzy, drops to nearly $45 a barrel, the lowest in 6 years. UAE says OPEC will not slash output in the face of waning demand. A top story tonight. The government today removed DRDO chief and top missile scientist Avinash Chandar 16 months before his contract was to end. Now, the defence minister justified the move, saying a younger person and someone not on contract should hold the post. Chandar's contract had been extended less than just 2 months ago.
An order from the Appointments Committee of the Cabinet saying Avinash Chandar's contract would terminate on the 31st of January, a good 16 months before it was due to end. It was up on the Department of Personnel and Training website before Chandar was informed, triggering speculations. Chandar himself claimed he had no idea it was coming as the Defence Minister put forward justifications.
DRDO chief का जो tenure था वो normally उनका नवंबर में खत्म हुआ था, लेकिन जो पहले जो कैबिनेट ने अप्रूवल दिया था उसमें 3 बरस का पीरियड कहा था और 3 बरस पीरियड रिटायर होने के बाद कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पे चालू रहेगा. I said a very senior position should not be on contract. There are so many who are eligible. उनमें से कोई तो लेके आए, तो there is no controversy. I don't want someone on a contract on a senior post.
Scientists are stunned, but the cold vibes were visible for some time. In August, the DRDO was slammed for delays and cost overruns in key military programs. Prime Minister Modi had said potential was being held back by a chalta hai attitude. Chandar had been snubbed with his request for extension for 4 senior scientists turned down. The case is fodder enough for political back and forth.
DRDO and other critical defence establishments cannot be trifled with in this manner. There has to be a certain amount of sensitivity in dealing with these organizations.
The Defence Minister repeatedly said whatever will be done to strengthen India's security requirements and also to modernize armed forces. As it's evident, we are talking about Make in India and trying to bring manufacturing through the FDI route. There has also been a lot of newspaper and media reports about a lot of delays, cost overruns with DRDO. The government is the appropriate authority to decide on this.
Avinash Chandar had gained the name of Agni Man for leading the long-range Agni missile series. He was also the scientific advisor to the Defence Minister and the main person for all defence technology issues. A replacement for him will be picked from among top DRDO scientists. Curiously, the top post for another scientific body, the ISRO, is also lying vacant. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Now, amid fears that TCS, that's Tata Telecommunication Services, is handing out pink slips to thousands of employees, the company today clarified that it hasn't initiated any large-scale exits of staff. The fears were triggered by reports yesterday that the company had sacked over 2,500 employees.
Tata Consultancy Services has broken its silence on the controversy over large-scale layoffs. While denying reports of layoffs, the company admitted what it called involuntary attrition for the first 9 months of the year. It said the figure was 2,574 or nearly 1% of its employee strength.
This involuntary attrition and separation is not permissible under the statute and Constitution of India. It is contrary to the statute, that is Industrial Law and Industrial Dispute Act. Because what you are adopting the practice, the employer is adopting the practice of issuing the employee by giving certain monetary benefits, which is completely opposed to the statute.
Fears were sparked in the industry by media reports that said TCS, which happens to be India's largest software company, had over the next 9 months plans to sack 25 to 30,000 employees.
जो कहा जा रहा है कि बड़ी-बड़ी कंपनियों के अंदर रोजगार के नए अवसर उदारवादी आर्थिक नीतियों से खुल रहे हैं, ये तो रोजगार के जो लोग लगे हैं उनको निकाला जा रहा है। इसलिए मैं समझता हूं कि केंद्र सरकार को इस पर तत्काल ध्यान देना चाहिए और पता करना चाहिए कि कारण क्या है।
TCS officials told Rajya Sabha TV that the company's third quarter report will be released on Thursday and will shed light on the situation. But paradoxically, while the company routinely claims that the performance of its employees is good, it seemed to be admitting the truth about layoffs as well. Industry sources have also expressed fear that senior people are being removed and were being replaced by juniors for lesser money. With Akhilesh Suman, Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, Uttar Pradesh authorities reported the discovery of nearly 108 bodies on the banks of the Ganga River. The police say that the bodies could have been dumped by poor families who couldn't afford to cremate them. In a related development, the Supreme Court slammed the centre over the delay in cleaning up the Ganga. The pictures you see might be a little disturbing.
On a day when the Supreme Court questioned the centre on the progress of its Ganga cleanup plan, Uttar Pradesh authorities reported that over 100 bodies had washed up in the river. The Akhilesh Yadav government ordered a probe into the developments.
अब इस पर जांच करने के लिए मैंने कोतवाल सफीपुर को और अपने स्टाफ को भी कह दिया है और इस पर जांच कराकर त्वरित गति से कार्यवाही की जाएगी कि किस तरह से लाशें आई हैं। हो सकता है कि जो लाशें प्रवाहित की गई हों मरणोपरांत और जलस्तर कम होने के कारण किनारे आ गई हों।
The bodies were found near the Periyar Ghat, where they are generally cremated. Police claim the bodies were dumped by families who couldn't afford a decent cremation.
उत्तर प्रदेश में उन्नाव जिले की डीएम से भी मैंने बात की और उत्तर प्रदेश की सरकार को भी मैंने सूचना भेजी है कि मेरे को इसके बारे में विशेष रूप से बताइए कि ये स्थिति का निर्माण कैसे हुआ है। और प्रधानमंत्री जी स्वयं जानकारियों के प्रति बहुत अलर्ट रहते हैं और प्रधानमंत्री जी उस रिपोर्ट को देखने के बाद हमारे विभाग को जो निर्देश देंगे हम उसका पालन करें।
बहुत से लोग गरीबी में अपने परिवार के व्यक्ति की मृत्यु जब होती है उसको जला नहीं पाते, गंगा में प्रवाह कर देते हैं। ये सब कुरीतियों के कारण भी हो सकता है वहाँ पे इकट्ठा हो गई हो। मैं तो चाहता हूँ सरकार को ऐसी व्यवस्था करना चाहिए कि लोग अपने अंतिम व्यक्ति को सही तरीके से भेज सकें जहाँ उनको जाना है।
Volunteers of the Save Ganga movement started a sit-in protest, stating that the dumping of bodies was polluting the river. In a related development, for the second time in 6 months, the Supreme Court pulled up authorities in charge of the river cleanup. Solicitor General Ranjit Kumar told the court the work will be completed by 2018. The centre said 118 towns had been identified for sewage treatment plants.
तमाम इंडस्ट्रीज जो जिनमें कोई ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट नहीं लगा है, किसी तरह का ट्रीटमेंट नहीं हो रहा है, वो इंडस्ट्रीज़ को बंद करने का आदेश दे दिया गया है और वो इंडस्ट्रीज़ को कम से कम यूपी स्टेट में सबको बंद कर दिया गया है।
The discovery of the bodies underscored yet another problem for the Modi government that is trying to move fast on the cleanup, even as the district administration tried to use JCB machines to fish out the decomposed bodies. Local residents, led by BJP workers, protested against the effort. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Right, now the story that we are focusing on tonight. Oil prices slipped to a 6-year low in Asia after major crude producers insisted that present output levels will continue despite an oversupply. US benchmark West Texas Intermediate was down to $45.55 a barrel. Brent crude dropped 43 cents to $46.16. The present fall in crude prices started in June after peaking at $100 a barrel. But the fall was accelerated from the 27th of November when the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries decided to maintain output levels. OPEC member United Arab Emirates has announced that the cartel will not slash output in the face of the price rout and waning demand. Instead, it has urged the United States to cut its production of shale oil that has been widely held responsible for the supply glut. All right, when we have with us here a journalist, Priranjan Das, to help us understand how is this happening, what is the global politics behind it, first that, and then we'll talk about how it impacts our lives.
The global demand for oil is slack, and there is an oversupply that is essentially leading to this precipitated drop in oil prices. And since June, we've seen oil prices dropping almost 60%. Now, this is the oversupply has resulted because of one, Russia producing much more. In fact, the production growth in Russia is 3 times compared to the same period last year.
Right.
And the US inventory being very high, and the new production that is coming from shale oil. OPEC, of course, as your report mentioned, has indicated that it's not going to cut production to stop this or to prevent this oversupply causing this precipitated fall in oil prices. So that has further accentuated the situation. And also, we know that commodity prices globally.
Right.
Normally, there are commodity price cycles, and we are entering a decade of lower commodity price cycle. The high commodity prices, 2000 to 2010, typically every decade,
right,
you have the cycle turning.
Okay.
And so we've got into the low price commodity price cycle.
Okay.
Oil, of course, has started losing, and so are many other commodities.
Okay.
Most commodity prices are on the decline.
All right, so but then what does this mean for us, and what does it mean for India and the Indian economy, and what does it mean for us? I mean, does it mean cheaper petrol, cheaper diesel? Does it go down further?
Of course, it means cheaper petrol and cheaper diesel. That is, India will benefit perhaps globally. India is the single largest beneficiary because our dependence on energy imports are very high, and this is a kind of a boon that has come, and this is as if the elements are sort of together cooperating to kickstart the Indian economy. But I would say that while diesel and petrol prices have been reduced and they have come down, the oil companies have done it, but the government also has been able to get some of the revenue, taking advantage of this low international oil prices. As a result, on the one hand, it is able to control the subsidy that normally goes towards oil. And on the other hand, there is a scope for getting some revenue by way of excise duty for the center and by way of VAT for the state governments. So that's a very, very good situation that has been brought about because of the oil price having come down so drastically.
And do you
so
think
it's good for the Indian economy. But I'm afraid that if prices drop like they have, and now it is 46, they go down further, and then it could have adverse impact on the Indian economy.
How?
For instance, in the stock market, in the financial markets, to the extent that petrodollar, that is dollar, that is capital which has been flowing from oil-rich countries into India. So to the extent that petrodollar the flow starts getting restricted. All right. That could have an impact on the financial market, and more so for the real economy, for exports, for our export markets abroad. If oil goes down like this, that signals global slowdown. Okay. That signals that demands globally for our export goods will be low.
Yeah.
So that will have that kind of an impact.
All right.
But if the prices stabilize, say at $50, $50, $60, that's a very good situation insofar as the macro parameter of Indian economy concerned. That doesn't, however, mean that we are out of the woods so far as our economic difficulties are concerned.
All right, so we have to tackle our economic difficulties ourselves, but of course, a lower crude oil price does certainly help in that regard. Thank you very much, Priya Ranjan Das, for coming in and explaining the nuances of cheaper crude oil prices to us. All right, and crude is not the only thing that's gone cheaper, because wholesale price-based inflation, though it moved up marginally to 0.11% in December, it's reversed a 6-month declining trend. WPI was 0 in November. The present rise was attributed to the increase in prices of food items. Government said food inflation in December moved to a 5-month high of 5.2%. Inflation was markedly higher in pulses, vegetables and fruits. Price rise in wheat, milk and protein-rich items like egg, meat and fish was comparatively slower. Contraction in WPI inflation for petrol was steeper at 11.96% from 9.96% in November. Similarly, decline in diesel prices during December was higher than in November. It's time for a very quick break right now, but coming up on the other side, the PDP refuses the National Conference's offer of support in Jammu and Kashmir. Why is that? We'll tell you after the break. Welcome back. You're watching the news tonight. Now, US President Barack Obama will have a tight schedule during his 3-day visit starting January 25th to India. Obama will be the first US president to be chief guest at the Republic Day parade. He'll be accompanied by his wife Michelle Obama and a team of senior officials. On the first day of his visit, Obama will meet Prime Minister Modi to hold talks on an entire gamut of bilateral ties and discuss ways to enhance cooperation in key sectors, including civil, nuclear and defense. Now, they are later expected to make a joint press statement. On the second day of the visit, Obama will attend the Republic Day parade. He will also join Modi to take part in the Indo-US CEO roundtable. He's also expected to visit Agra during his visit. All right, now the PDP today refused the National Conference's offer of support in forming the government in Jammu and Kashmir. The party also indicated that its preference still remains the BJP, with which it's continuing back-channel negotiations.
A day after it wrote to the governor offering to back the PDP, the National Conference is finding itself snubbed in Jammu and Kashmir. The PDP is clearly telling it cannot dictate terms.
Now they want to come back through the back door into power and keep themselves afloat for the next 6 years. They are in any position to decide who should make a government with whom, because they are number 3rd in the tally of seats.
In his letter on Tuesday, National Conference President Omar Abdullah urged Governor N.N. Vohra not to take any decision on government formation without consulting his party. Both PDP and the BJP leaders also indicated that they are still pursuing back-channel talks.
See, under the scenario in which none of the political parties have received a clear majority in Jammu and Kashmir, it's but natural that all the political stakeholders of the state should be in dialogue with each other.
Both the PDP and the BJP failed to reach any agreement even 3 weeks after the results came, following which the governor's rule was imposed in the state last week, with the PDP insisting that cobbling up a government has never been the sole aim of the party. Some parties feel fresh elections are a distinct possibility.
To the extent that government formation requires our support, we've already offered that support to the PDP, but they have to ask for it. And if they need our help, we'll be able to help them.
Given support in written?
No, we have not given any support in writing.
There is a great constitutional crisis in the state, and ultimately we have to go for fresh election. We are holding working committee meeting this morning. We are preparing for next election.
The assembly elections threw up a fractured mandate, with the PDP taking 28 seats in the 87-member House. The BJP came close second with 25 seats, National Conference 15 and the Congress 12 seats. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, the Congress has come out with its second list of candidates for the Delhi Assembly polls today. Former MP Ajay Markan has been included in the list of 25 names. Markan, who was earlier picked as the head of the Congress's campaign team for Delhi, will contest from the Sadar Bazar constituency. Former Speaker Yoganand Chhatri and Mahabal Mishra are some of the other prominent names in the list. Meanwhile, according to sources, Congress leader Kiran Walia will contest against Arvind Kejriwal from the prestigious New Delhi seat. And ahead of the Delhi Assembly polls, Aam Aadmi Party has accused BJP State President Satish Upadhyay of being hand in glove with power companies. Former Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal said that the BJP leaders must come clean on their ties with the power suppliers in Delhi. Rejecting the allegations, Satish Upadhyay threatened to sue Kejriwal if the charges are not proved.
Aam Aadmi Party has stepped up its campaign against BJP ahead of the Delhi Assembly polls. Targeting BJP chief in Delhi, Aam Aadmi Party alleged that Satish Upadhyay owns companies which install and replace electricity meters in Delhi.
सारे पेपर सारे हमारी वेबसाइट पे हैं। वो कंपनी की डायरेक्टरशिप के, कंपनी की ओनरशिप के, शेयर होल्डिंग के, और वो इंडिया मार्ट के अंदर वेबसाइट पे इन्होंने खुद लिखा हुआ है कि हम नंबर 1 इंस्टॉलेशन है, मतलब अपनी पीठ थपथपाई हुई कि हम BSCS को कॉन्ट्रैक्टर, सबसे बड़े कॉन्ट्रैक्टर, सबसे अच्छे कॉन्ट्रैक्टर हैं।
However, Satish Upadhyay rejected the charges leveled against him. Addressing a press conference, he gave Kejriwal 24 hours to prove the charges. Also present at the conference, Delhi BJP Unit Vice President Ashish Sood said that he will resign if allegations of a nexus with the Delhi Discoms are proven.
वो कंपनियां जो उन्होंने नाम लिए हैं 2 कंपनियों के, अगर वो सही हुई तो मैं आपको निश्चित रूप से कहता हूं कि मैं अगले ही दिन, कल ही, और मैं उनको 24 घंटे का टाइम दे रहा हूं, मैं टाइम बाउंड कर रहा हूं इसको, अभी तो चुनाव है ही नहीं। इन दोनों कंपनियों के बारे में या तो वो सबूत दें वरना सक्रिय राजनीति से संन्यास ले लें।
Aam Aadmi Party has also alleged that BJP had been dilly-dallying over its promise of slashing electricity tariff by 30%. But it did not criticize the firms when the CAG had complained that the Discoms did not furnish details of their finances. With inputs from Manu Diwan, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, a day after slamming the Modi government over the land acquisition ordinance, the Congress returned to Bhatta Parsol today to launch its protest. Attending a Mahapanchayat with farmers, Congress leader Jairam Ramesh said the ordinance is not in favour of the farmers. The party's working committee met yesterday, planning widespread protest against the ordinance.
A day after the Congress attacked the Narendra Modi government over its anti-farmer land ordinance, senior party leader Jairam Ramesh attended a Mahapanchayat on Wednesday in Uttar Pradesh's Bhatta Parsol. He attended the farmers' meeting along with former Union Minister Pradeep Jainaditya. Criticizing centre on the ordinances on land as well as coal, Jairam Ramesh said both were anti-farmer and anti-labourer.
जो कोई किसान के हित में है, के पक्ष में है, जो कोई चाहता है कि लोकतांत्रिक रूप से भूमि अधिग्रहण हो और जो चाहता है कि सही मुआवजा मिले किसान को, और जो खेत मजदूर हैं जिनकी आजीविका उस अधिकृत भूमि पर निर्भर है, तो वो इस अध्यादेश के खिलाफ होगा।
Congress has been alleging that the ordinance promulgated the government takes away the powers given to farmers by the Land Acquisition, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act enacted by the UPA-2 government in 2013. The party has decided to hold rallies and agitations across the country, especially in places where land disputes are burning issues. The party wants to woo farmers and landholders against the recent tweaking of the land law through an ordinance.
ये हमारे लिए एक दिन, एक हफ्ता, एक महीना या एक साल का मुद्दा ये नहीं है। हमारे लिए ये हमारे मूल सिद्धांतों के खिलाफ जाता है। हम लड़ाई लड़ेंगे, अध्यादेश का विरोध करेंगे, लोकसभा में, राज्यसभा में।
Incidentally, Bhatta Parsol is the village where Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi had launched a protest against farmland acquisition in 2011. His agitation had led to the formulation of the Land Acquisition Act. Party chief Sonia Gandhi had slammed Modi on Tuesday, claiming the ordinance has destroyed the act. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now let's have a look at all the other national news we are tracking in nationwide. Security forces shot dead a Lashkar-e-Toiba militant in Sopore after a gun battle that lasted over 6 hours. The dead person, identified as Abu Huzaifa, was holed up in a house during a search operation. The Supreme Court today granted a 3-month extension to Italian Marine Massimiliano Latorre, who was accused of killing Indian fishermen in 2012. A bench headed by Justice A.R. Dave allowed the application on medical grounds. The government supported Latorre's plea on humanitarian grounds. Minister of State for Parliamentary and Minority Affairs Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi was granted bail soon after he was taken into custody in Uttar Pradesh's Rampur district. Naqvi was convicted by a local court for breaching prohibitory orders in the 2009 Lok Sabha polls. 8 others were convicted along with Naqvi. Now, unfazed by the recent attack, a French satirical magazine, Charlie Hebdo, released its latest edition, even as the Al-Qaeda claimed responsibility for the attack. Despite the heightened threat, the first edition of the magazine, after the attacks, sold out within minutes around France.
It's a week since armed men stormed into the office of Charlie Hebdo magazine in Paris and unleashed mayhem, and 3 days of terror. The Yemen-based branch of the Al-Qaeda officially claimed responsibility for the massacre. The video released on a social media site purportedly shows Al-Qaeda's top commander Nasser al-Ansi claiming it was the organization that ordered, planned and funded the attack in Paris. He termed the operation vengeance against the repeated publications insulting Prophet Muhammad. But terror hasn't shaken their resolve. A defiant Charlie Hebdo released its much-anticipated latest edition. Long queues at newsstands was reflection enough of the response. The edition was sold out within minutes. The new cartoon of the Prophet has already generated threats from militant websites, perhaps something they revel in. The manhunt for last week's attacks has widened, with more than 10,000 troops on guard. The French PM says the country is still under threat.
À aucun moment, nous ne devons baisser la garde. Et je veux dire avec gravité à la représentation nationale et à travers vous à nos concitoyens que non seulement la menace globale est toujours présente.
But it has not affected the demand for the magazine. Editors decided to increase the print to 5 million copies in France.
Je voudrais aussi remercier évidemment toutes les institutions, tous les anonymes, toutes les personnalités qui nous ont remerciés, qui sont Charlie.
Encore Charlie. Je suis Charlie. Je suis flic. Je suis juif. Mais je suis aussi musulman. Parce que les terroristes qui nous ont attaqués.
The new edition features a cartoon of a weeping Prophet Muhammad on its cover. The Prophet is shown holding a sign that says, "I am Charlie." Above the caricature is the phrase in French, "All is forgiven." Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Now time for all the sports news in Sports Beat. World number 1 Novak Djokovic and Serena Williams will be top seeds for the Australian Open next week. Djokovic is bidding for his 5th title at Melbourne, while Serena is gunning for her 6th Australian crown. 17 times champion, Grand Slam champion Roger Federer is seated 2nd, ahead of injury-plagued Rafael Nadal. Colombia's James Rodriguez won the FIFA award for the goal of the year. Rodriguez beat a strong competition from women's Ireland international Stephanie Roche and Netherlands striker Robin van Persie to win the award. Rodriguez was the top goal scorer at the World Cup last year. Saudi Arabia kept their Asian Cup hopes alive after they came from behind to beat North Korea 4-1. North Korea, who scored its first Asian Cup goal in 23 years, went ahead in the 11th minute, but a poor defence cost them 4 goals and elimination from the tournament. In another match, China beat Uzbekistan 2-1 to advance to the quarterfinals. Well, that's the news tonight. Good night.